Hi, you are watching the video for lesson 25 in our module, and today we are going to be continuing how to add and subtract rational expressions. So, what I have for us here is some of our notes, and today I want you to take note of the vocabulary that was used in today's video. So make sure that you know what these terms mean, and if you don't, that this also goes in your notebook, and then you go look up the definitions at the end. Or you can pause the video right now and go look them up. So we have common denominator, add, subtract, fraction, multiply, simplify, monomial, binomial, expression, factor out, and rational expression. So every time you hear these words, you can put a star next to it, especially if you are writing notes yourself. I encourage you to use the vocabulary from today's video in your notes. So fundamentally, adding and subtracting fractions, we are going to have to get a common denominator. So this is like the big rule for any fractions. And rational expressions are just essentially large fractions. So we have this rational expression. There are going to be 4 examples today. We have this expression. It's an equation, and the only instructions are to add. So we have to get a common denominator. So I'm going to keep track of my scratch work over here. And my common denominator, I have a squared and b, and I have a and b squared. So these are my denominators. If you really can't think of a common denominator or lowest common one, you can always just multiply these two together. But this one has 2 a's, so it definitely needs a squared, and this one has b squared. So I'm trying to think if I can multiply each of these expressions by something to get a squared over b. So what I'm going to get is a minus b over a squared plus or times b plus a plus b over ab squared. Now, I have to think to myself, what do I multiply my denominator by to get a squared and b squared? And all I have to multiply by is another b. So I check b times a squared times b. That's going to give me a squared b squared. This is my common denominator. Okay, if I multiply the bottom, I got to multiply the top. On this expression, I just have to multiply by an a, and then I should get a squared times b squared, and what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So now I'm going to a squared and b squared. Oh, this is not negative, it's just a little scratch. A minus b plus a times a plus b over a squared b squared. Because these now have a common denominator, I'm going to draw a large fraction bar, a squared b squared. And if they have a common denominator, I can add the numerators together. And notice I'm just writing it down right now. I do have to expand and then simplify the numerator, but to do so, I'm going to use my scratch work over here. So b times a minus b plus a plus b. I'm going to distribute ab minus b squared. I'm going to distribute again, plus a squared plus ab. And I'm going to simplify. That makes 2ab. This makes an a squared, and then I have a b squared. And if I want to rewrite this a squared, well, I think this was a b over here, 2ab minus b squared. Can I factor this some more? Are there any factors of b squared that are one is negative, one is positive, that add up to 2ab? And I say no. And so my numerator just remains a squared plus 2ab minus b squared over a squared b squared. And I can't simplify that anymore. So that is going to be my most simplified answer. Now I'm going to try the second problem. At this point, pause the video and annotate your notes. If you have questions about what happened, now's where you mark it down. And then tomorrow, bring your questions in. Okay, for number 2, I'm looking for my common denominator. And my common denominator between a and a minus 5. Well, I don't know. I can't just like add a negative 5 here. I can't just write, negative 5 and negative 5. That's not how that works. I have to multiply it by a factor. So I'm just going to have my denominator be both factors multiplied together. because why not? So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 over a minus 3 over a minus 5. Now I have to think to myself, if I want my denominator to be a times a minus 5, I'm missing a factor, a minus 5, so I'm going to multiply by it. You can multiply factors like this. This is when you can multiply factors. You cannot multiply just like minus 5 times minus over minus 5. Okay, on this side, to get my common denominator, I'm going to multiply both the numerator and denominator by a. So my common denominator is going to be a times a minus 5. Okay, let's see. My numerator over here, I'm just going to rewrite this. A minus 5 times 2 minus 3a. I'm going to do more scratch work on the side over here. Get rid of some of this. Do some more scratch work. A minus 5 times 2 minus 3a. So if I distribute this, I get 2a minus 10 minus 3a. Negative a minus 10. Okay, so this was my numerator, and I've simplified it on my scratch work side because I want to keep my left side of the page beautiful. So I have negative a minus 10 over a times a minus 5. You can simplify this with a negative sign, take out a negative sign, but you'll have an equivalent expression. Only 2 more examples. Again, pause the video, annotate your notes. If you don't know how I got this common denominator, I chose my common denominator as a and a minus 5. That's where you can put a question mark or an exclamation point and bring those questions to class. Okay, so I'm looking at my problem. There are no directions, it's just an expression. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to simplify by combining these 2 expressions together. So I'm going to guess I have to simplify. Simplify. To do so, I still need a common denominator. And so what I'm going to need to do is find out if there's a factor in here. So 1, I'm going to factor the denominator. Factor denominator to find common denominator. Okay, so this is my scratch work on the side. Scratch. I have b squared minus 2bc plus c squared. This is a little tricky, but this is actually a formula that you might have seen before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to guess and check. This kind of looks like when we do a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, which is a plus b squared. It's a perfect square, which is hard to recognize, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if I can just guess. I'm going to guess it's b minus c times b minus c. So what I'm doing is I'm guessing that these are the factors, and I'm going to fill in and see if I'm right. So I'm multiplying b squared, negative cb, and c squared. So together, do I get my numerator or my denominator? Yes. Okay. So that means the factors are b minus c and b minus c. That's convenient because on this expression, there's one b minus c. We just have to multiply it by another one. So I'm going to draw an equal sign, and I'm going to factor this. B minus c, and then I have this b minus c. Okay, I'm missing a b minus c to make a common denominator. So I'm going to write b minus c, and I'm going to multiply now. B minus c, b squared minus b minus c over, there's 2 of these. Okay, so they have common denominators, which means I can draw a big bar, and write b minus c. And I'm going to change it to squared because we all know that b minus c times itself, it's going to be b minus c squared. Okay, so the numerator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the numerator to my scratch work side. B squared minus b over b minus c. Okay, b squared minus, I'm going to keep the parentheses here, b squared minus cb. Okay, I have this parentheses. Now I have to distribute this negative sign. I have b squared minus b squared plus cb. So this goes to 0. And now I have my numerator, cb. So if that went really fast, pause the video, go back, put a question mark, annotate, rewatch. Don't just write it down. Okay, and that's it. That's as far as I can simplify. I'm just checking really fast. Okay. The next problem. Okay, last problem. Example number 4. We are going to, again, we have to factor the denominator. Factor denominator. Because we need to see if there's a common denominator here. So I'm just going to, this is my scratch work, remember. So x squared minus 1, I know that's x plus 1, and x minus 1. Okay, x squared plus x minus 2, I know that's x plus 2 and x minus 1. Great, so I'm gonna rewrite it as x minus 1, x plus 1 minus 2x over x plus 1. 2x, x plus 2, x minus 1. Okay, so I need to make a common denominator. They both have a factor of x minus 1. That's good. We'll keep that. But this expression is missing x minus 1, and this expression is missing x plus 1. So my common denominator needs to be x minus 1, x plus 1, and x plus 2. I need to have all 3 of those factors in my denominator. So I'm going to multiply this expression by x minus 2, x plus 2, and x plus 2. And I'm going to multiply this expression by x plus 1 and x plus 1. Equal sign, I have x plus 2, x minus 1, x plus 1. And I have x plus 2. Minus, I have x plus 2, x minus 1, x plus 1. And I'm going to have 2x times x plus 1. Okay, so now that I know I have a common denominator, I checked, I multiplied, I'm like, great, I did all that work and I got a common denominator, excellent. I'm just going to write my common denominator down here. And then write, my numerator I'm going to do in my scratch work. So I'm going to do my scratch work over here. I'm just going to copy down my numerator. All right, I'm going to distribute x squared plus 2x minus, I need a parentheses because there's a negative sign. I'm going to have to distribute that negative sign again. But for this time, I need to distribute this part, 2x squared plus 2x. That's equal to, now I'm distributing this negative sign. So you have to be really careful. This is where a lot of caution signs go up and questions, and this is where a lot of the small errors come in, and this is why you take notes on it, is to be careful and we're drawing attention to these small errors. This is negative 2x squared. These two cancel out to 0, and then plus x squared, and we're left with, this is negative x squared. Okay, so my numerator is negative x squared. If you noticed, I wrote my numerator in the scratch work, and I'm left with, I just put on my left side of the paper my beautiful work, and then I let all my scratch work be on the right side. So when somebody looks at your left side of your paper over here, they're like, oh, I know exactly how your work went. And if they didn't know how they went from this step to this step, they can look at your scratch work as well. Okay, here's where you write your summary. And this is where we know if you reach the end of the video or not, because on your notes when we check, we look at your summary. So write your summary here and then bring our questions to class tomorrow. Bye.